What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the altar again, and this time we return part two with On the Might of Princes. It is great to be able to talk with all of you again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for having
us.
us.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. I can't believe our last talk was almost 2 years ago, and it feels like only yesterday.
That's
Yeah,
during the
time is
pandemic,
speeding
right?
up.
Yeah, exactly. Time flies, whether you're having fun or not. That's what I learned during the pandemic. But
Hmm.
it's so awesome to have you here because the last time we spoke, we were talking about like the anniversary of where you are and where you want to be. But now we're talking about the anniversary of Sirens. So I kind of want each of you to like discuss what was your sort of memory behind the making of Sirens. Did it feel like you were just sort of picking up where you left off after that last album? What was the sort of mind frame? Obviously, this was the last On the Might of Princess album. So, did you guys know that this would be the last Might of Princess album, or so on and so forth?
No, I mean, it didn't. It felt like a more of a subversion from the Where You Are because just thematically, anyway, it was much more darker, and we weren't as prepared either. It was a bit more of a mess to make than Where You Are. We were more prepared. We were more focused and more united as a band. Whereas Sirens was kind of. I don't want to paint it completely dark, but it was, it was just more of a struggle to get the songs together and get on the same page and things like that. And even the record itself is much darker too. So it doesn't really sound like a continuation at all. And that's probably why I like it now more because it doesn't sound like a part two of Where You Are, like with anthems and, well, it was more of a experimental record, I guess. When I listen to it now, it sounds more like that, I guess, than Where You Are Part Two, where there's like, these big, hardcore anthems and sing-alongs and things like that. That's how it feels to me, anyway. So definitely the memories aren't as good, but I am, in hindsight, more proud of it because of how it turned out.
Anybody else like to add to that?
Yeah, I could add to that a little bit. I think that while Where You Are was more of a kind of a collection of songs that we'd written over our, I guess, sort of the prime of our band. It was that period of time where we wrote most of our songs and we were really functioning as a band really well, and it just wound up being a collection of songs. Whereas Sirens was more of an album. I feel like it turned out, even though we were more disjointed, the album seemed more focused there was more of a theme to it rather than just it being a bunch of songs that just wound up being written in the same time period. Or even, I mean, actually Where You Are, those songs were written over a pretty wide range of time. It's just that, it'd been such a, we had some of those songs right after the first record, and just everything that we wrote from then until that came out was pretty much on that record, with maybe the exception of one or two songs. And then we actually had to write Sirens, intentionally, whereas, Where You Are just kind of manifested from songs we were just writing.
Yeah, Where You Are was like kind of like a mixtape from like 98 to whenever it came out, 2001. It was like a hodgepodge of everything we were doing, with acoustic stuff and early songs. We like Caboose was something we were written during the first record. So it was kind of this mismatch, and some stuff we wrote with previous drummers, some stuff we wrote with Chris, who joined. So Lou was right. It's like Sirens was like a start to finish like project of like how do we get an album together, which we never really did before.
Yeah, and what Lou was saying when he just mentioned that we had to write it, we got signed to Revelation Records around that time, and that was sort of when things were really popping off in our scene, when bands were getting kind of picked up by big labels, and that definitely like there was a deadline or a pressure to get it done at a certain time. It was more of a business at that point for us to sort of have obligations to get things together. But Where You Are was like the other guy said, like it was a culmination of songs they had written and demoed before I joined, and then we finished writing when I joined, and it was also under no pretense of trying to meet any deadlines or anything like that. There was really no audience at that point that we were sort of like having to keep in mind when we were putting those songs together. I mean, I was still a teenager, and we were mostly writing that stuff in my parents' basement and Lou's parents' basement. So then when Sirens was being made, we had a couple tours under our belts, and there were already a couple of labels sort of hitting us up, and we were kind of just in a weird headspace at the time. I think that might have been why there was some mention of us not being in like the best place. It was just a very bizarre time for us, and ultimately, like, I'm very proud of that record, but also we broke up shortly after it came out. And what's also odd about it is, I remember having a really, really great time in the studio. It was like kind of like the biggest studio experience that we ever had, where, this was a place that like they had everyone from like Cave In to like a Perfect Circle, I think may have done some stuff there. I know Godsmack recorded there. It was just sort of like a very pro like environment, which we weren't used to. We had like, more than one person helping us out. I remember there was like a drum tech and a couple engineers, and we had a producer. So it was like a way more of an elaborate experience. But a lot of people didn't get the record when it came out. And, in Europe, we had a really good experience. But in the States, when we would play songs from that record, it was kind of a weird vibe. And the reviews were very mixed, mostly not in favor of it. And then, of course, after we broke up, everyone, not, when I say everyone, I mean just the general fan base of our band, I think, appreciated it more after we had broken up, unfortunately. But super proud of that record today.
When I listen to Sirens, when I listen to this album, I get so many different vibes and emotion behind it. When I listen to Go Fuck Yourself, it's very different from like They Have Teeth or Spit Survival or Cloak and Dagger. It seems like every song tends to have its own emotional significance behind it. Tommy, you kind of in a way just answered this question, but I'm curious too, because I've always said art is life, and it can grow and it can develop, and it could also eventually die at times. So as it grows and develops, the way that the art feels, we are going to feel differently about it too. When you look back at this album and you listen back to it, does it almost put you back in a similar mind frame that you were in 20 years ago? Or as 20 years later, you look at it now with a different perspective and get a different emotion upon listening to it?
That's amazing that you just said asked that, because I've only recently listened to it. I mean, we have some news to break in a few minutes, but I've been listening to it now, and it does take on a different tone, because like it's so much time has passed, so it doesn't feel like it's there's less like possession of it. I guess I don't feel so precious about the record or the mistakes we made, or I used to like kind of hold it up to where you are. I'm very proud of. Sirens, I was always like, we could have done better. That was always my gut feeling. But now in hindsight, I see kind of what it was, and I am very proud of it. I don't have doesn't really bring back the sentiment of the time when I hear it. I hear it more for what it is, because it is something that, like, it's funny because so many now people, Chris has always had more of his feet to the ground in that scene still. I have come some time away, so I never really realized how many people will still listen to us, really. So now hearing, you realize it's kind of taken a life of its own. It's become not a thing that's ours anymore, almost. So it's like kind of in the hands of everybody. So I can kind of hear it from some distance. I see that it's affected people, and my own baggage, I guess, is kind of like dissipated because of that. So I can see it. I'm definitely much more proud of it, or much more. I can listen to it now. I did, and then also when Jason passed, I just didn't listen to the band for years. I mean, this is really only the first time I've been doing that, just because it was just too. I just felt that was just too heavy, I guess. It's not something I was ready to like. I have kids now, and it's not something I was ready to like play around them. I didn't want to really talk about it that time in my life. It was just felt too too heavy, maybe, or too, just the way it ended, and just too many, a lot of kids have a lot of questions, so it's like I don't want to like bring up things that they're not ready to hear, things like that, So, but now, listening back, I'm just like, all right, yeah, we did it. I think we did a really good job. And I didn't really think that before. So yeah, I definitely know the baggage is gone, and it's something I'm very proud of and willing to share again. That brings us to, we are, I don't know, Chris could probably this better, so maybe you should take this.
No, please go ahead.
Well, we're going
I talk all the time, so I'm kind of like, I feel like you guys should get your chance to.
Well, no, we're reuniting for some gigs around this, the Sirens anniversary, and also the 10-year anniversary of Jason passing. So this is the first time we're talking about it. It sounds, but there's a new energy behind it. It's something I never thought would happen. Chris would once in a while bring, I get a text once in a while from him like, "Oh, we should try it with this person or this person," and just he brought up the idea of choosing the people that seemed the right people, and as soon as he said that, I mentioned the people that we want to do it with, it just clicked. I was like, all right, all this time has passed, and people, I'm starting to engage more with the community now. People that are into the band, and it feels like a new energy, and also something that's celebrating something in the past. So yeah, we're ready to do it again and see just where it goes, and have fun and celebrate the re-release that it's also going to be coming out on vinyl. So we've got a bunch of stuff lined up. I'm leaving out a lot, because you probably.
All right, I'll fill in the gaps here. So September 29th at the Brooklyn Monarch in Bushwick. We're going to be performing, and tickets are on sale on as of Friday, March 3rd. It is we'll be announcing the openers over the next few months, and it's going to be the three of us. We're going to be doing songs from our entire career, and we also have the original drummer who played on the first album, Making of a Conversation, will be joining us for a couple songs. And then we're going to have a girl named Rachel Rubino, who was a very dear friend of ours. And, most people probably, if they had ever heard of her, probably know her from the band Bridge and Tunnel.
Wow.
Oh, yes, you know them. And then
Regarding Isles.
More recently, she's been playing in a band called Open City with it's like the guitar player for Lifetime, and it's like a kind of like a punky Discord kind of hardcore band. And she just has been around the band since before I was in it as a fan, and she's gone on to do great things. And she has just a really powerful presence still to this day on stage. So it feels really good that we are doing this with her. And then on guitar, our friend Tom Tierney, who plays in the Julie Christmas band with me and was also in a band called Tidal Arms. The two of them are going to be filling the role of Jason for these shows, for this show, sorry. It's going to be, it's really exciting, and honestly, like, I was thinking about it the other day, and it is definitely like heavy when I really process it. But I feel like it's going to be a great therapeutic experience, because honestly, like, the band was such a special time in our lives, but also in ways a very traumatic experience as well. Not just, Jason's death was extremely tragic and traumatic, but also we just went through so much stuff, and we have a documentary that will also be coming out, and we are very close to being finished with that. It's a 90-minute film, and it talks about sort of all of the hardships, but also the victories, and all the crazy things we went through, because we really went through a lot. And normally I would say I'd feel weird making a movie about myself, but I think the three of us probably, agree that we really went through some crazy shit. I don't want to give too much away, but like, put it this way, we almost died more than a few times while we were in this band, and maybe it'll make for a good movie. Who knows? We'll see when it's out.
I'm already looking forward to seeing this, and that's really good. And I obviously can't speak for Jason, but I think that this is an incredible dedication to a vocalist who is incredibly talented. When I listen to the lyrics to these albums, I feel like they are really, really just so hard hitting and so relatable. I can't tell you how many times I've showed Where You Are and Where You Want to Be to people, and they think it's a concept album because of like the dialogue and the narration behind it. There is like a story. Jason had a storytelling voice behind it, and not to say that wasn't prevalent in any hardcore or post-hardcore band. All of them told stories, but every time I listen to an On the Might of Princess album, it takes me on a bit of a journey. I feel like that the albums have just as much as a story to tell as all of you guys, and I think that is truly an extraordinary thing to say about Jason and On the Might of Princess.
Yeah, I mean, you could get a vibe. I mean, that's a good way of putting it, because listening to it, you can definitely get a vibe that, we weren't like a elevator, Gap commercial kind of band. You know what I mean? It was a very like, there's urgency to it. I'm not saying that as a boasting, but like as far as the songs themselves go, they do tell a very emotional story. You can listen to it and definitely say that you hear that we weren't right in the head. I guess at certain times,
right?
But also,
you
know what I mean. It's not like a thing where I don't know. It definitely reflects the times of each period, and it is a hard time, and I think that's why people still like it, because it does tell about that struggle between like in adulthood, that weird period where you're kind of uncertainty and still trying to do something outside the box. We were a bunch of weirdos trying to break out of where we were, all dealing with various struggles. Sometimes internally.
The songs are like a harnessing of that struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's why people relate to it, because it's real struggle, and it's real honesty, and that's the kind of thing that people respond to. There's no pretense to it. It's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't go out trying to do anything in particular. We just wrote the stuff that we liked and felt, and it just happened to, hit people, in that right way.
Yeah, and I think also, not to speak for Jason because he's not with us, but obviously, his lyrics were a reflection of himself, and he was definitely somebody that I think lived a pretty hard life, and we all did in our own way. So the four of us coming together, I think, is why why it came off the way it did, which is generally, I don't know what the right word is to attach to it, but like we didn't write happy music, I guess. What I'm saying?
Well, I mean, in the world of post-hardcore, is there such a thing as happy music? Even with all the chords played in a major key, I don't think there's any happy music incorporated in here. But this album is now 20 years old, and a lot of people are now going to have the opportunity, and I'm notorious for doing this, and sorry for making you all feel old, but I was in 3rd grade when Sirens came out. I was 9 years old. I didn't have the chance to see On the Might of Princess back then, but now is the opportunity. Do you feel like by having this celebration in memory of Jason, and kind of like in a way finishing off the demons that you were able to conquer with the making of this album, is this almost kind of making things in a way come full circle? Do you feel that maybe the purpose of this show and this unification is to maybe almost tie up loose ends?
I actually think that. I don't want to speak for the other guys, but I didn't. Like I said, every time Chris mentioned it, I would be like, just very apprehensive.
Me too.
When he brought up the people, especially, we just threw around some names. And as a concept, I thought it was a good idea. But then I was like, I'm not going to bring up. There's so many parts about the band I don't want to relive, so many parts I don't miss. But I thought it's really not about me. It's not about us. It's about just like the shared experience. And now that, like I said, now that I've been listening to it it's so much hindsight. It does feel like it's going to be a hero with the new energy, because there's a new energy around it, because of the people we chose, with Rachel and Tom being involved. They're just going to bring something to it. I'm confident it's going to be a thing that feels, old but also new. And there is so much good energy around the band too. Like, as much as there was internal struggle, and like we were talking about, the people that always liked it always brought so much love to the shows. And the feeling that now you have people that, like you're saying, like you, and people that were been engaging with on socials and stuff. It's just always been a good energy, and like you can't help but absorb that,
Yeah, and I think, like you said, you perfectly, I think, described the feeling that I've been feeling about this. Like, it's bittersweet, because it sucks to realize that, I don't know, I feel like as an adult that I have a different mindset today, and it's a lot more positive and understanding than it was 20 years ago. That's kind of what happens, I think, when you grow up. So it's easier to walk into this and treat it with more respect than I think it was given back 20 years ago, when we were breaking up and kind of a disaster. But it also is super kind of sad at the same time. You know what I mean? Because it is not the same. I think, getting up there is going to be a pretty emotional thing to realize that it's not the same band. But like Tom said, I think it's a mixed bag of the love that we got from people who I think, we will have the same experiences with again when these shows happen. But the people like yourself that never got to experience it, I think, is really the most attractive thing for me personally about doing this, because the music is available and people still seem to care about it, but didn't get the chance to see it. So, while it won't be the same, I think we, again, did the best thing by choosing Rachel and Tom to help us bring an energy that I think is authentic, but also a fresh look at the band. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not the same band, but I think it's an appropriate way to do it in 2023, 20 years later, if we're going to do it at all,
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's good. I feel like it's going to be like a family reunion, yes. But not just for us, but for fans and friends and everybody who enjoyed the band. Like, I mean, that all throughout the band's career, it was really, the fans were on stage with us, singing with us, huddled around, hugging, singing along, that kind of camaraderie was, what I remember about the shows. And, just to be able to do that again and see that again, I think will be, worth whatever we do. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, I didn't have anything to say. I think, yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I mean, as much as it's going to be a reunion, because we don't see each other that often, I mean, even though we're friends, band members, we haven't seen each other in a while, really. Not to mention, just this people from the scene. I mean, I've been off the map since the reunion show in 2012. I mean, it's going to be a reunion in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be incredible. If you don't mind me asking, if this question is a little too personal, forgive me, but with preparing for this reunion, practicing the material, revisiting those lyrics that Jason sang, and playing those riffs again and those beats and everything, did you almost have to face personal demons in the process of preparing for this in a way? Was there stuff that you had to confront that added another layer of obstacles to the making of this reunion?
We haven't played yet. We've just been kind of learning and listening on our own. First practice will be just with me, Chris, and Tom in a few weeks, and we'll kind of meet as we go. Chris is going on tour, and just things are going in and out, so we're not going to really meet as a full band until probably the summer or spring or something. But no, as far as I think the demons have been there. They're already gone. I don't think we're gonna go over any it makes sense to think that way. But I think we've already been struggling through all that stuff as like I said, I haven't even listened to the band. This is the first time I've listened to it. Besides, like, you know, going over some of the vinyl masters and you know, approving some sounds and things like that. As far as sitting down and actually listening to it, I haven't. This is my first time doing it. And then once I got over the hump, I really think all the positive energy around the band and people we chose, like, to bring them up again, I think it's kind of dissipated all of that negative stuff. Like, literally, I don't have a negative thing to think about this whole thing right now at all. It's really, it's the most positive I've felt about the band since probably, you know, since Chris first joined or something. It's a really really good feeling. I don't foresee, and we're all, like Chris was also saying, we're all adults. We would deal with any problem that comes now in a much more open way. We could actually talk. You know, I think most of our problems before were probably because we weren't talking about some of the issues and probably acting like children because we were.
Well, also, you know, keep in mind the band broke up when I was 21. So
yeah, exactly. So it's like
we were really
so many
young.
things. Yeah, there's things I've learned a lot from that experience and known what not to do. You know. And how not to treat people and how to bring up problems and be proactive and things like that. So I think, you know, all that stuff's in the past.
Yeah, just to add to that too, I mean, I think that when we do play, it's going to be emotional because we haven't played these songs since, you know, since Jason, you know what I mean? So it's not like we've ever even dabbled or anything like that. So I still know how to play the songs, but it's totally different than getting together and doing it. So I mean, I don't even know what to expect, but I'm sure it will be kind of bizarre. But I also know that I feel like as a musician, I feel more confident today than I did back then in my ability to execute it. So I'm excited.
I spoke to Jason's
I
girlfriend.
definitely have some rust to knock off, but you know, I haven't played much in a while. But I pulled it out the other day, man, and like some muscle memory came back. I was remembering parts I didn't think I was going to remember, and I forgot the ones I should have known. You know, but again, it's like, I mean, when you're out of the game for a while. But I mean, now like we're all older and more mature, and I you know, I'm going to make sure I'm prepared, you know, like, and that's just the way. Nobody's just going into this like half-ass, you know, like, you know, that's, you know, which I think was a problem, you know, not necessarily like, you know, all of us, but some of us, it was like, you know, you just weren't really, you know, weren't treating it professionally, you know, and when you're not professional and you're doing professional style things, it clashes and, you know, disasters ensue, you know.
Definitely. There was one final question I wanted to ask, you know, to sort of make everything come full circle. But the hardcore and post-hardcore scene that On the Might of Princes, you know, with Glassjaw taking off and Poison the Well taking off and all the greats that we know from the East Coast hardcore and post-hardcore movement. But, you know, On the Might of Princes' music was very, very melodic. I can't imagine you guys playing at a Sick of It All show or an Agnostic Front show singing "Don't You Hate It When It Turns Out You're the," without, you know, maybe, you know.
We actually did play a festival with Sick of It All twice. Yeah. By the way, but as a different than.
But I am curious to like with the melodic tendencies that you guys sort of like had, and the you know, I mean, you guys had some ballads on Where You Are and Where You Want to Be. Let's be real.
Yes.
So how did the sort of like post-hardcore scene sort of like take to On the Might of Princes back in the day?
I think, well, there was so like it was a weird time because we were playing with those type of bands. Yeah, we were playing with. There was no one around that was in where we were anyway. It was like we were either playing with like punk bands, ska bands. It wasn't like we were playing with until we were touring really with bands that were like us. So it was a mixed bag, and sometimes people, you know, it was weird. We were accepted by all these bands because we would just play literally with anyone. Like anytime, there was very rarely. I don't think we ever really turned down a show. It was like, want to play the ska show? Yeah. Want to play this punk show? Yeah. So it wasn't like we were playing alongside these groups. We were just influenced by a lot of the earlier versions of that scene, you know.
Yeah, and I think since we had such an eclectic, you know, grouping of songs, like if we were on a heavy hardcore show, we could just tweak the set a little bit and play the heavier end of our spectrum, and it wouldn't feel so out of place. That, we're not just going and start playing Illusion Italy and at a sick of all show. I mean, but we've done that too. But like if we were feeling uncomfortable, we could always play the heavier end, and then when we played indie rock shows, we could play some of the lighter tunes. But we were either the heaviest band on the show or the lightest band.
Yeah, that's
it was, and sometimes it was the same show. We were the heaviest and the lightest band at the show. But I think we had ska shows, punk shows, hardcore shows, emo shows. You name the style of music that was out at the time. We were playing shows. With that style of music. So, I mean, and we were influenced by all that anyway. So, I think we kind of had that Led Zeppelin-y approach, where, they had folk songs and, Eastern influence stuff and rock and roll and blues and you name it, or even a more recent band like Jane's Addiction, like that band, they had those songs that were just rocking and songs that were more acoustic and, indie or whatever, but they had some punk rockers and some other shit too, and it was just I that's the way I liked it. I mean, I love all different types of music, and so does the other guys. So it was just kind of bam, we got reggae mixed in and metal and you name it.
There was almost nothing we didn't dabble in except for dance music, I guess.
Yeah.
And hey, Caboose definitely has that dance vibe behind it, I thought. So I think
I'll tell you a funny one, Alex. We actually played two stories for you. We played Hellfest one year, and they had the stages. So I guess they were kind of far away, but for a band like us, you could just hear breakdowns the entire time, behind us. I don't know who would be playing, but it'd be the year we played, it was everybody from Bane to
Most Precious Blood or something.
Most Precious Blood, Poison the Well. And so, there were funny shows where we would play and there would be some brutal shit happening. And then it wasn't so long after that, and I don't even know how this happened, but we actually opened for the Misfits at a show, not at a festival. We were the opening act for the Misfits at somewhere upstate. I don't know if it was Syracuse or it was somewhere upstate New York. That was totally bizarre.
What era?
I don't remember it being a problem or anything. We didn't have we weren't booed off stage. I actually can't even remember playing. I remember more of the off-stage stuff that took place that day than actually being on stage. But
what was the Misfits roster at that show? Who was in it at that time?
This was only. It was Jerry Only on
Jerry Only was
and Des Cadena from Black. Marky Ramone on drums.
One hilarious thing before, because the show itself is a blur, but we were outside smoking or something, and the Misfits pulled up and they started handing us equipment. I think they thought we worked.
They did. So we. And then
no. The promoter promised them that we would help them, even without telling us.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This is a good one too. When we were done, you don't expect the Misfits to watch you play, right? I mean, and so I went to the back of the stage, and Marky Ramone had his sunglasses and leather jacket and the long hair, the whole Ramones look. And I went up to him, and I think I said something like, it's an honor to share a stage with you guys tonight. And he basically didn't look at me or say anything, and happened to have a Sharpie handy in his jacket pocket, grabbed a bar napkin and wrote Marky Ramone at it and threw it at me, kind of almost like he had, probably had done this a million times before. And then, that's all I remember. He walked away after that.
That's an amazing story. You guys have honestly, if this series was still around, I think you have enough stories to make a behind the music documentary on you guys.
Oh, you have no idea. I've seen some of those. I've seen a bunch of them, and I'm always you have no idea. And all of us have been in bands after, and none of it, as far as hilarious, absurdity and drama, lives up to stuff we went through, good and bad, but it was such an extreme I don't know if it was the energies we were carrying with us or what, but there was so always a story to report back. So much so you tell people and they'd be like, oh, you're bullshitting and stuff. But it was always like something absolutely ridiculous. You could talk about it all day. And
I think we had a lot of tension with each other and with the just people in general. So you never knew what was going to happen. Sometimes there might be.
We just look ridiculous too.
Yeah,
we show up like Tennessee looking like we did, and like you just get the looks too. It's not like we were looking like
we had internal fights and fights with strangers at parties, not even at shows. Fights at shows, all sorts of shit.
This all explains why your music is so damn good. I mean, you don't have those experiences without adding flavor to the music, So I think in the end, I think it all paid off.
I don't think there'll be anything like that on September 29th. Hopefully not.
No.
So I'm not getting the full. I'm disappointed already. You're saying no. Okay.
This is gonna be the senior citizen version of
I just read a comment on our Instagram today, and it's so weird because we didn't play violent music necessarily, but somebody commented on a photo I posted from a show we played in Long Island. Said, "This is the show I got my jaw dislocated at." Like that was somebody's memory of watching us.
Yeah, but we've never another thing that's been cool I was thinking about. We've never, as much as we had the shows have got pretty I don't know what you want to call it. There was a lot of dancing going on at the shows, but there was never really got a tough guy following around, which you'd see like a fight at a Madball show or something like that.
Sure.
So it was very like peaceful dancing and never erupted into something that was violent, which I think is very rare.
Respectful, like
very much. Yeah, I used to go see Fishbone when I was younger, and like it was that same kind of thing. I always wanted that. I was like, oh, this is like cool because like I felt comfortable dancing. I wasn't gonna get my, I was like 90 pounds. I was.
What's funny? What's funny is I feel like it was a different kind of outlet for like the hardcore kids. Like whereas like hardcore kids would go to like a chugga chugga band to go and get their angst out, and then. Then they would come to an On the Mighty Princess show to get their like, emo stuff out. They'd be hugging and crying and, singing along and, like, just like, it was like, I don't know, like the feminine side of hardcore or something. It was cool. I mean, like,
it was just a different release too. Yeah,
it was like an accepted space for people to like show that side of themselves where, like Sick of It All was where they could show their, their angst and anger and manliness or whatever, and then you can switch gears and just go and like hug and sing along and like sway in the freaking crowd. Like it was wild. I mean, in its own right.
You had the same effect I thought that maybe Typo Negative sort of had. I think you brought the romantic side and. Oh, and by the way, going back to the friendly dancing, if you guys play an Illusion to Italy, I'm gonna try to find somebody to slow dance with at that at that show. So, just a heads up. So before we go, I want to thank all of you so much for coming back on the show. It's so great to catch up again. And I can't wait for the show on September 29th. If you saw me looking at my phone while you were talking, it was me marking it on my calendar right now. Okay. Is there just what else would you like to say to all the people who have supported On the Mighty Princess over the years, and anything else we could be expecting?
Check out the remastered vinyl. It's coming out March 3rd, Chris?
March 3rd, Sirens remastered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, I was just listening to it today, and I mean, it sounds so much better. I mean, the vocals are audible. You can really hear everything much better. It just
sounds great.
It sounds 100 times better.
Yeah, it's gonna be available through Revelation Records, Brooklyn Vegan, and Dead Broke Records starting on March 3rd, and then tickets are going to be on sale as well. It all is dropping at 1:00. So probably people watching this is just going to already have happened, but hopefully it didn't sell out by now, and you can buy your tickets and buy a record. So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks to everybody listening and keeping in touch with, keeping the band alive. We'd definitely not be doing this if people, are not interested.
We're just grateful people still care. You know, like that's the greatest compliment anyone could give. You know,
And you're still gaining new fans on board as you're
excellent.
truly. But,
yeah, I mean, 9-year-old you. I mean, that's a testament right there. Like, you know, like you were 9 when that came out. So I mean, that's awesome that people still like it. You know, and you know that.
I think he was younger than
experience
that
when it was happening.
I think he was younger than 9, actually.
What?
I was
Well, he said
born-
what, third grade.
Third grade is
Third grade.
What's third
Oh,
grade?
you would be 9. That is 9. Sorry.
Yep.
I don't have kids, so I don't know. I have a hard time doing the math.
It's like 8 or 9.
Yeah, but yep,
Crazy.
you guys were knocking it dead and killing it as I was learning multiplication and division for the first time. But anyway, everybody, this is Alex from Heavy New York here with On the Might of Princess. Check out Sirens when it is reissued on March 3rd. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.